Every pool player knows about the exciting swerve and masse shots where the cue ball curves down the table. Most know that this curved path is due to sidespin. But did you know a ball can have sidespin and not curve? Or that, just because you put English on the cue ball, the sidespin could end up with little or no effect? Ball spin and swerve are very complex. They need to be demystified. In the first two demystifying videos, we looked at the topics listed below, which deal with the side effects of applying sidespin. To keep things simple, those videos neglected swerve. But swerve affects most shots, and therefore must be understood. So now we'll examine sidespin and swerve head-on. Due to the complexity, the topic is broken down into two videos. This first video, Demystifying Spin and Swerve, Part 1, addresses how a ball spins with a level cue, which is essential to understanding both spin and swerve. The second, Part 2 video, shows how to understand and manage swerve and masse shots themselves. There's a lot of ground to cover, so let's get going. To understand swerve, we need to first examine in detail how a ball spins. It's more complex than you might think. Starting with the basics, for a shot with no sidespin, the ball simply rolls down the table. As shown by the stripe, the roll is consistently vertical. In other words, the axis about which the ball rotates is horizontal. It is the most efficient rolling behavior, with the full circumference of the ball being used for the forward motion, and, because the ball is not sliding or skidding, the least amount of friction between the ball and table. For this reason, it is the natural, end-state, rolling behavior. Given sufficient forward momentum and open rolling space, any ball will naturally seek to finish its path by rolling in this manner, regardless of its initial spin. But if the shot also has sidespin, we now have two spins on the cue ball, forward and side. One might think that combining these two spins must cause the ball path to curve. Sidespin causes a curve, right? Not necessarily. It is possible for the cue ball to have sidespin and yet still follow a straight line path. Let's take a look. Here's a side spin shot. A cue tip position offset to the left from the horizontal center will cause left side spin. The impact of the cue stroke imparts both side spin and forward motion to the cue ball. Note how the stripe starts out vertical, but slowly becomes horizontal by the end of the path. This occurs because the side spin dissipates as the ball seeks the end-state rolling behavior described earlier. Remember, any ball wants to end up rolling with natural roll, regardless of its initial spin. Also note that, the ball path is straight. There is no curve. So, yes, a ball can have side spin and yet still roll down a straight line. What accounts for this behavior? Let's take a closer look. To understand this rolling behavior, we first need to understand how cue tip contact position on the cue ball affects both sliding distance and spin axis orientation. How does tip position affect cue ball sliding distance? Notice that in our first shot, the cue tip struck the ball above center. A tip position 1.575 inches above the table causes the ball to have immediate forward roll without sliding. But lower tip positions will cause the ball to initially slide over the table. For example, this lower, center ball tip position causes sliding. This sliding motion causes friction between the ball and table that torques the ball, and over a certain distance, converts into forward roll. Here it is in slow motion. Friction converts sliding into rolling. Once it is rolling naturally, another type of friction, called rolling resistance, slowly brings the ball to a stop. Sliding distance increases as the tip position is lowered. But shot speed is a factor too. Faster shots also increase the sliding distance. These examples had no sidespin, but as we'll see, sliding also affects shots with sidespin. Next, we need to examine how the cue tip position determines the initial spin imparted to the cue ball, and the corresponding spin axis orientation. For the previous shot, the cue tip struck the cue ball at top center, imparting top spin for a follow shot. A bottom center draw shot is the same but the spin is in reverse. In each case there is no side spin, and the spin axis is horizontal. A horizontal spin axis indicates no side spin. To execute our left side spin shot, the cue stick addresses the cue ball at center left, creating a vertical spin axis. Likewise, center right causes right spin with a vertical axis. A vertical spin axis indicates side spin. A combination of top left sets the spin axis at an angle and imparts both top and left spin. Similarly, bottom left sets the spin axis at the opposite angle, also imparting left spin but now with bottom spin. Top right and bottom right work the same, but with right side spin. An angled spin axis indicates both side spin and top or bottom spin. Also, take note of the miscue limit line. Any tip position outside this line will likely result in a miscue. Recall that lower tip positions cause the cue ball to slide. Physics dictates that any tip position below 1.575 inches above the table, shown by this purple line, will cause some sliding. But, if contacting the cue ball anywhere along this line, the ball will have immediate natural roll with no sliding. Note that some side spin without sliding can be achieved by moving left or right on this line. But, because of the miscue limit, the left-right tip position is restricted to a maximum spin axis angle of around 45 degrees, which is less than maximum side spin. Logically therefore, maximum side spin can only be achieved with lower tip positions that cause the cue ball to slide. Finally, for all these shots, note how the spin axis always lies in a plane that is perpendicular to the table. As we'll see next, this only happens when the cue stick is level. With those basic concepts out of the way, let's return to our full left side spin shot. The ball has both side spin and forward roll. Yet it still goes straight. Why? Remember that, so far, we've been careful to use a level cue, and that's the key. A side spin shot will travel a straight line if, and only if, the ball is struck with a level cue stick, stroking parallel to the table. As we've seen, the cue stick orientation determines the initial orientation of the ball's spin axis. For this center-left side spin shot, when the cue is level, the spin axis is vertical, pointing straight up from the table. When friction also induces a forward rolling spin, the vertical spin axis responds by tilting sideways to accommodate the forward motion, as the ball seeks natural roll. As long as the axis can tilt within a plane that is perpendicular to the table, no curve of the path is necessary to allow both the spin and forward motion to occur simultaneously. But, to repeat, this perpendicular, spin axis plane, only occurs when the cue stick is level. A quick reminder. The purple line shows the deflection of the cue ball, away from the yellow aim line. Deflection is not caused by the side spin itself. As discussed in my Demystifying Natural Pivot Length video, it is caused by the impact of the offset tip on the ball, and occurs instantaneously on impact. Let's look at this behavior another way. When the cue ball is set in motion with side spin using a level cue, an interaction between the ball and table occurs that allows straight line motion. So, let's look at where the ball touches the table as it rolls, drawing a line on the ball to reveal the nature of this interaction. This line creates a spiral as the ball rolls, and the spin axis tilts. The side spin slowly dissipates as the axis tilts. When the axis becomes horizontal, the side spin is gone, and the ball is simply rolling in its natural end state. The spiral then becomes a circle around the middle of the ball. This magic spiral illustrates how the side spin is absorbed by the axis tilting behavior, allowing the ball to travel in a straight line. Here's a closer look. If the ball has only side spin, with no forward motion, it would simply spin around a stationary point touching the table. Friction would gradually slow the spin to a stop. Without forward motion, no spiral develops. But in a real shot, both the forward motion and the side spin are dissipated by friction. As the side spin wears off, the spin axis slowly tilts, causing growth of the spiral shape. When the side spin is completely gone, the spiral merges into a circle around the vertical circumference of the ball. Finally, friction slows the forward motion to a stop. Here's the growth of the magic spiral on its own. We now have our answer to how a side spin shot can roll straight. The orientation of the magic spiral is always in agreement with the direction of forward motion. That is, the direction of the spiral where the ball contacts the table is always in line with the rolling direction. Ball spin is therefore in harmony with ball roll, allowing the ball to travel in a straight line. No curve. But this orientation of the spiral will only occur when the spin axis is perpendicular to the direction of travel, and remains so as it rotates within a plane that is perpendicular to the table. These conditions keep the spiral and rolling directions in agreement, and, again, this only occurs when the ball is struck with a level cue. That's the key. The previous animation is idealized to show the spin axis tilting uniformly. But generally speaking, table friction acts quickly, causing the axis to tilt noticeably over just a short distance. The axis then tilts more slowly toward horizontal. So, for a typical side spin shot, the spiral looks more like this. Initially, it evolves rapidly as the axis tilts quickly to around 45 degrees. This corresponds to the quick sliding phase of the path. Then, when sliding ceases, and the ball begins rolling naturally, the spiral grows more slowly, finally becoming a circle when the side spin disappears completely. This illustrates that the sliding phase of the path is much shorter than the sidespin phase. The sidespin lifespan is quite long, persisting over a distance that is much longer than the bottom spin that is plagued by sliding friction. Due to this long lifespan, sidespin usually lasts until the cue ball hits an object ball or the rail, which is hopefully where it works to our advantage. Indeed, even a small amount of sidespin can still be helpful for cue ball control. And, as seen earlier, because shot speed increases not only the sliding distance but the total path length, the sidespin lifespan can be extended further by using a faster shot. Another advanced method to extend and intensify sidespin is to use a drag shot, but that is beyond the scope of this video. What about adding topspin? Here's the same shot. Level cue. Parallel shift left spin. But now with top left. This tip position causes the spin axis to start out already tilted by about 45 degrees, so there is some side spin. But the tip position height of 1.575 inches means the ball starts rolling immediately. There is no sliding phase, and therefore the first part of the spiral is skipped. But other than that, the ball rolls as before. And because the cue is level, the direction of the spiral still agrees with the forward motion of the ball, and it again travels a straight line. You can see this spin at the table. Place a striped ball with the stripe at the angle shown, pointing straight down table. Place the cue tip in the middle of the stripe, at a height of 1.575 inches. This height is 70% of the ball diameter above the table. If you do this carefully with a good stroke, you will see the ball roll without any wobble of the stripe, indicating immediate roll, without any sliding interference. As the side spin wears off, the stripe will slowly become vertical, indicating a horizontal spin axis. What about adding bottom spin to our left side spin shot? As we saw earlier, the higher tip position for top spin shortens the sliding phase, or skips it completely. But the lower tip position for adding bottom spin lengthens sliding. Check out this shot. Notice how the stripe flips about 90 degrees from one orientation to the other during the sliding phase. Then, as before, the stripe rotates more slowly to vertical as the side spin dissipates. Sliding still happens quickly, but it is longer than the previous shots because friction must absorb the additional back spin caused by the low tip position. A very curious spiral is created with bottom spin. Like adding top spin, the spiral starts at the halfway point. But because the back spin is in the opposite direction to ball motion, instead of expanding directly toward the large final circle, the spiral first shrinks down to the point of the vertical spin axis, and then expands back to the final full circle shape. The spin axis starts at the initial angle, tilts up to vertical, then continues tilting to horizontal. Once again, because we're using a level cue, the ball still travels a straight path. So, for a bottom left shot, the magic spiral looks like this. We now have a good idea how a ball spins when struck with a level cue, as well as the different spin phases down the path. Here's an overview. The first phase is the relatively short sliding phase. The natural rolling phase follows. Sidespin occurs through both sliding and rolling, and with enough open space, completely disappears before the ball stops rolling. If the tip position is below center, backspin is imparted, and sliding causes the spin axis to flip. The spin axis is vertical at mid-flip. As forward roll develops, the spin axis completes the flip. The natural roll phase begins. The spin axis is still tilted, so some sidespin is still present. Rolling resistance slows the ball and absorbs the remaining sidespin. Sidespin disappears completely when the spin axis becomes horizontal. Finally, the ball rolls to a stop. The sliding phase can be shortened, or skipped entirely, using different vertical tip positions for the shot. This low tip position causes the longest sliding phase. But a tip position halfway up the cue ball starts the sliding phase at the halfway point. And a tip position at the 1.575 inch, immediate roll height, skips the sliding phase entirely. A key point is that, with a level cue shot, 1, the cue ball travels a straight line, and 2, the cue ball can lose all its sidespin and still be rolling. The consequence of these two facts is that a sidespin shot will only have effect if the cue ball hits an obstacle before the sidespin has worn off completely. It is only upon hitting another ball, or the rail, that sidespin has an effect, such as throwing the object ball, or changing the rail rebound angle, and hopefully helps our shot making. In short, if a level cue sidespin shot doesn't hit something before the sidespin disappears, it's really no different than a shot with no sidespin at all. Fortunately, using a faster shot speed not only lengthens the shot distance, but extends every spin phase further down the path. This increases the chance of hitting an object ball or a rail cushion when the cue ball still has sidespin. We now have a good understanding how the cue ball spins when struck with a level cue. Here's a summary of the main points. With a level cue, sidespin dissipates as the ball moves downtable and the spin axis rotates toward horizontal. The spin axis rotates within a plane that is perpendicular to both the table and ball direction. This axis rotation creates the magic spiral that is in harmony with ball direction, allowing the ball to follow a straight path. A tip height position of 1.575 inches, 70% ball diameter, causes immediate roll. Lower tip positions cause the ball to slide initially, with more sliding as the tip is lowered further. The sliding phase is relatively short. The sidespin phase is significantly longer. A faster shot extends all spin phases. Sidespin has effect only when hitting another ball or a rail. Okay, that's all for now. If you found this video helpful, you know what to do. But wait. What about swerve? As mentioned at the beginning, we must first understand how a ball spins, using a level cue, with no swerve. I hope this part 1 video accomplished that goal. We're now ready for the next video, Demystifying Spin and Swerve, Part 2, where we'll examine swerve in detail. Thanks for watching.